So let's get started, shall we? This will be hopefully a little bit experiential, a little bit, but I'm going to be talking a lot, so I hope that's all right. And let's see. How do I go next? How do I advance?
Oh, I clicked on the mouse on the left.
Right here? Oh, there we go. There's the United States, and of course right here, in the southeast, you can see it has a little border with the Gulf of Mexico called Mobile Bay. It borders, in addition to the Gulf, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, and Mississippi. Has anybody here ever been to Alabama?
I haven't.
Not yet. One day. Here is, I hope you can see, just to kind of give you a general idea. The major cities, we have Mobile. It reminds me of a knock-knock joke that we told when I was growing up. You know what a knock-knock joke is? Okay, so I say knock-knock, and you say, who's there? And I say something, okay, and you say something who, and then I say something else.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go with it here. So knock-knock.
Who's there?
Mobile.
Mobile.
Mobile me a house. All right. Okay. We're going to talk later about Southern American English, and so you'll kind of get there. Anyway, so we have Mobile. The capital is Montgomery. The largest city is Birmingham. Huntsville at the very top. That's actually where my family is from. I was born in Scottsboro, right by Huntsville there. But I grew up, got married, went to school, all that fun stuff in Tuscaloosa. Mm-hmm. About 5 million people live in the state of Alabama. Like I said, largest city, capital, Montgomery, Birmingham. 4 states in the Gulf of Mexico. In the summer, the average high is 32, and the average low is 3. So snow is rare, very rare. In fact, in my youth, I probably saw snow about twice growing up, only twice. And it was, you can imagine, people like that, when they see snow, it's like, I don't know, like some kind of magical event. You run outside, oh, what is it? right. In the north, you have the foothills of the Appalachians. So the Appalachian Mountains kind of run like this. And so in the northern part of the state is mountainous. And the southern part of the state, well, and it's a forest throughout, primarily pine. And if you're interested, a little area. Very Christian, very conservative brand of Christianity. 70% white, 26% black. This is actually considering the percentage of minorities in the United States, non-whites in the United States, 26% is actually a very large number. A lot of poor Alabamians, almost 18% are at or below the poverty level, meaning that they either just barely make enough to survive, to have a successful a way of life, or less. And this is, on average, depending on how many people are in your family, it's about $20,000 per year. That's a poverty level. Let's see, median household income, $40,500 per year. 5th lowest in the U.S. It is also the 10th poorest state in the U.S. It has been closer to the first position in the past. It is 10th now, not because it has gotten better, but because other states have gotten worse. And it attained statehood in 1814. We'll talk a little bit more about that in detail. Education in the state of Alabama. So this tells you where the maximum. So how many people, for example, did not go to the 9th grade? They stopped after the 8th grade. 8%. Alabamians with some high school, but they did not finish high school, 16. High school, 30%. Some college, no degree, 20. An associate degree, which is a 2-year degree, about 5%. Bachelor's, 12. Graduate professional, 6. And so, as you can see, the majority of Alabamians do not finish university. This is true for the United States as well. these numbers are higher for Alabama, that they are not dissimilar from numbers for the United States as a whole. The state bird is the yellowhammer. You can't really see it. Well, it's beautiful, trust me. The state insect is the monarch butterfly. The state mineral is hematite. Interesting, isn't it? Yes. The pastime is American football. I cannot overstate the importance of this sport. This is everything to Alabamians, myself partially included. Just to give you an idea, this stadium is in my hometown where I grew up, Tuscaloosa. The population of Tuscaloosa is about 85 to 90,000 people, but the stadium can hold 110,000. And they sell out every game. Another pastime is barbecue. You know, it's like shashlik, but it's different. These are ribs, barbecue ribs. And they're very, very bad for you, which means they're delicious. Let's see. Oh, we really can't see this at all. I'll describe it all to you. So here we have fried chicken. And on top of the fried chicken is cornbread. And in this little bowl we have black-eyed peas, which is like little beans with a black spot. We boil it in water and animal fat. And greens, usually taken from the top of a root vegetable. These are, I believe, turnip greens and a turnip in Russian. What is it? Ripa? Right? Also, and so what we would do is, traditionally, Alabamians are poor, like we are still, and they're farmers. So they would grow the root vegetable, sell the root, and then eat the greens because the greens were cheaper. Right? Another popular green is collard greens, which I think is listovaya kapusta, collards. The kind of style of music that Alabamians can call their own is bluegrass. Blues music is popular. Jazz music is popular, gospel, R&B very popular, but Alabamians can kind of, at least in part, claim that the bluegrass music originated there. And let's go back in time, shall we, about 12,000 years. First people that we know of who lived in what is now the state of Alabama arrived about 12,000 years ago. They were called Mississippian Indians. They were farmers and mound builders. I'll show you some pictures of mounds in just a moment. A wide variety, of course, of tribes and languages. We don't know an awful lot about them because by the time European explorers reached the area, all of the Mississippian Indians were gone. We're not really sure why. Perhaps because they left. Perhaps because of European diseases moving faster than Europeans themselves, but we really don't know. But the first Europeans in the region were a Spanish explorer by the name of Fernando de Soto. And for several hundred years, in the 1600s, 1700s primarily, the region that is now Alabama, or now includes Alabama, changed hands a great deal between the Spanish, French, and the English. As they were trying to gain greater influence in the New World. Here's a picture of what we believe the Mississippian Indians' settlements looked like. I don't know if you can see very well, but here we have mounds that they would build and put their homes on top. They usually lived near rivers, if you can see. We know what their diet was because we find lots of evidence of freshwater mussel shells being caught and eaten. And what would happen is every year they would burn their belongings on top of the mound and then put a new layer of dirt on top and then build a new home on top. Of course, we know this by digging into the mound, but we really don't know exactly why, unfortunately. Here is Moundville, which is an archaeological park. Well, you can't really see it at all. Well, there are mounds in this picture, I promise. You can kind of see? Okay. And basically when Europeans came to Mount, this is about 30 minutes from my hometown, Tuscaloosa, this was covered with trees, but they knew that there were these little artificial structures. And a little digging revealed that at one point people had lived there. I myself got to spend a summer in Moundville here at this park, excavating in a mound. It was quite an amazing experience. So Europeans competed, making treaties with local Indians. Generally these were treaties of convenience. Generally these treaties were broken when they ceased to be convenient. At the end of the French and Indian War, between the French and the English, in 1763, English got the land that includes now Alabama from the French. But then, after the Revolutionary War, Spain got it from Great Britain, because Spain participated in the war against Great Britain. But eventually, it was annexed by the United States at the end of the 18th century, 1795. And separately, in 1798 and 1804, the borders that became modern-day Alabama and Mississippi to the west were organized as the Mississippi Territory. So it became part of the United States, but not, of course, yet a state itself. So here is the United States in about 1804. We have here states and territories. Here's the Mississippi Territory. You can see right up here that all of Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, and part of Minnesota is 100% Indian territory at the time. Florida was still Spanish, East Florida and West Florida. This little piece of Florida and Alabama and Mississippi, and of course modern-day Louisiana, were ceded by the United States in around 1810, if I'm not mistaken. And eventually, of course, the Mississippi Territory was split in half, and the eastern half became Alabama, and the western half became Mississippi. Oh, and of course, right here we have Russia. And so for as long as European settlers and Americans moved westward through the future and present United States, there were conflicts with Indians, the people who already lived there and had been living there for thousands of years. U.S. government, just like the other governments before, tried to make peace with the Indians as best they knew how, but eventually broke virtually every one of them. Very often there were battles, sometimes even wars between Indians and the United States government or American settlers. And there was the official policy of Indian removal, to move Indians westward, basically to take their land, which had a certain amount of sovereignty, and move it west along with the Indians themselves so that the land could be cultivated and used for more advantageous economic reasons. The majority of these Indians were removed from present-day Alabama by 1816, but there were still a handful of tribes remaining. In the 1830s, like I said, there were still several tribes for the Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, and Creek Indians in present-day Alabama. Friction continued, and westward movement, as I said, was official U.S. policy. But something interesting happened. The Seminole Indians in the future state of Florida sued the U.S. government and won. The Supreme Court said that the U.S. government cannot move them. In fact, the U.S. government cannot move any Indians, that the land that has been given to them by the U.S. government, the government is legally bound to honor their agreement. Interestingly though, Andrew Jackson, the president on our $20 bill, ignored the courts and